Color Correction, HSL Secondary, Vignette. So, we have one last thing here, it's HSL Secondary. What is HSL? This is an abbreviation for the three coordinates used to describe a color. We create a key of light that determines all the color that we can repaint, and this key is given by three coordinates. We look at light, we will find it difficult to describe it using RGB coordinates. For example, I don't know how much is white in the picture, how much is green, and how much is blue. It's always unclear. With the help of HSL, we will be able to see more understandable coordinates, because H is the hue of the color we want to highlight. In fact, this is the spectrum that Newton has obtained by decomposing sunlight. But it's closed, because it exists from infrared to ultraviolet. By the way, Newton was the first to draw a color circle, because he combined the red and purple colors. Here too, this closed line starts with red and ends with red, so the transition from purple to red is somewhere here. If a person saw a wider color spectrum, then, for example, he would be able to see the ultraviolet color, etc. And maybe we would have a completely different color circle. But we have what we have. So, HSL is hue, saturation, lightness. In fact, here is described as a line, but most often it's described as degrees on the color circle. A saturation of 0 is black and white, it's no color. It can be black, white, gray or any color on this ruler that doesn't have a color. The other tip is absolutely saturated. There is the brightest color of any of these colors. And what about lightening of the color? Somewhere it's called luminous, somewhere it's lightness, but in any case this is a word with a letter L. Lightness equal to 0 is black and equal to 100 is white. Everything is much easier than with saturation. Therefore, we have auxiliary pipettes in order to highlight any color. Here you describe this color for me, even the number of pixels in the place I poked. Here you describe this color for me as three intervals: the interval on color circle, the saturation interval, and the lightening interval. I need to click on the color gray checkbox to see what my key turned out to be. We see that we have a little key with lapses. What are we missing? We don't have enough dark places here. What can we do? The first option is to take a pipette with a plus. The first pipette sets the coordinate, and this one expands the coordinates. Therefore, we take the second pipette and click on the place where we have a color lapse. We can see that it has extended the light interval. It's good. We can go further along this way. We can manually extend the lightening interval and the saturation interval. Let's say I went a little overboard. Let's stretch the slider again here. This is the result. I understand why it appeared. Here we sculpted up some yellow, orange and red, so the scheme came out. You see, our skin is almost removed. And here this interval has decreased. Let's adjust it manually a little. In principle the key turned out to be quite good, except for these places. If we repaint, there will still be a dark color that we don't need. Let's assume that we already have a great key. We took a fairly large interval, but we didn't get anything extra. The lips and other parts of clothing didn't get here. Everything seems to be fine. You can even slightly adjust the lightening interval. Next, we have a couple of refined parameters. If we have a key that makes noise, we will have a denoise algorithm. We won't see it here, but as we move, we will see if we have noise or not. And there is a blur setting. When we have some small points left, we can expand our key by blurring it. Now we are blurring just a mask. it extends its effect to neighboring pixels. We don't need it because we got a good key. If we come across small parts that were not affected by keying, we can apply this function. And then we use the correction stage. We take it and start twisting the color. Here we make the color red, added yellow to get orange. We can still experiment with colors. We can dry them into green. Here is the summation. In order to extinguish a color, you need to add an opposite color to it. Then its saturation will decrease. In this case, we added green to the pink color. You see, the saturation decreased. A gray and interesting picture appeared, and if we added blue, we get an intermediate color, etc. You can continue to play with these parameters indefinitely. There are also contrast, sharpness, and saturation. We can do anything with it after we have created a good key, and this is very cool. And the last tool in this series of beautiful things is the vignette. The most common vignette that never hurt anyone. We don't have square vision because we have two eyes and they are horizontal. So, the square is the need for a technical process. In fact, we see an oval. From here, a slight darkening of the corners brings the picture a little closer to what we're used to. The main thing is to adjust this effect without fanatism. Let's slightly darken the edges with a mount. There we're emphasizing the middle of the frame. The picture began to be perceived more pleasantly. Let's try adding a vignette on another frame. We also lower the amount, so we have an emphasis in the center of the frame. Also, I will make the feather smaller. Basically, this is the same mask that we did, just we adjusted its blur. We can adjust its roundness, squareness, and the midpoint. We can make a light or dark vignette. I don't know what a light vignette is for, but it might come handy someday. As a rule, we focus our attention in the center of the frame, and not vice versa. This concludes our discussion of the Lumetri color tools.